should be significantly faster, and these cars are so pace sensitive, which is part of why I think they fit this car really well. Meaning when the pace picks up, the cars, because they sit on the bump stops, they dramatically change the way they handle. And so if the new tire is much faster, you're going to have to choose between setting up for it or the old tire, and that can create some discrepancies that tend to open its discrepancies create passing, right? So ultimately, I'm as curious as anybody else. I don't know. And you know what? I imagine we'll all make lots of mistakes on it from the setup side and the driver side. And generally that causes great racing. And then we'll learn it and we'll ruin it. that's kind of the ebbs and flows of the sport. But I just applaud the fact that we're willing to try it and that Goodyear's willing to put that kind of effort in.
One more on Wilkesboro. Anytime you have a repave, obviously track may or may not widen out a little bit. The bottom's going to be dominant. Restarts, could the racing benefit from the standpoint of the outside's going to be so sketchy and people are going to make mistakes, and maybe that's how the racing is good there, because if you don't hit that line just perfectly, you're out of line and you go backwards.
Yeah, a lot of these tracks, to your point, the outside lane is kind of a no-go. There's a little bit of progressive banking to North Wilkesboro that would make me temper that. And the SMI repaves, generally they use less lime to finish them. And usually it's the lime that makes the second groove not come in on repaves. So I'm not ready to write that up.
Brad, working on a story about the All-Star race and some of the big moments from the past, I was curious if you had any that you remember fondly or any that stand out, because I know some people have talked about Kyle and Kurt, or Chase and other people wrecking each other.
I mean, I was alive and awake for one hot night, and to me that will always be the pinnacle of the race.
Perfect.
How does the notebook evolve here? Every time you come back here, is there certain aspects that just catch you off guard every single time, or is it like incremental difference?
The track is changing. A couple years ago they repaved the exit at turn 2, and it was like this grip strip of speed. And then, incrementally every year, we've seen it almost turn into the rest of the track. Like right now, I was watching the truck race. You can't even see it. You don't have a trained eye, and that's really changed the track in the last 3 or 4 years. Because when they first repaved it, there it was this grip strip, and you just flew through there. And now it's kind of getting harder and harder to go through that section of the racetrack, and that's changed. The approach. I think even in the truck race, you saw 2 or 3 guys wreck off of turn 2, where normally that grip strip would have just saved you. So I think that's one of the key dynamics of how the track has changed in the last few years.
Was this surprised to hear that Race Hub's going to be ending at the end of the month, just with how long of a run it's had?
Yeah, a little surprised, but not surprised. Yes, yes and no. I mean, it was an honor to be on that show. I think I had an 11-year run being on it, which was fun. A lot of great memories, moments. So it's kind of bittersweet. Some really great people over there, and I think it was a cornerstone of the programming for NASCAR. Not the only thing, but certainly from a TV perspective. And I just hate to see it go. I'm curious what the kind of go forward plan is, if there's going to be a new show that goes on another network, or be it NASCAR or Netflix, or pick your medium. I don't know them all, but it kind of hurts. That said, that's the history of TV, and it's not just NASCAR. Great shows, they all have a shelf life, right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of, at the end of the day, you hate that it's over, but you're happy that it happened.
Yeah. And then with all the recent news, recent rumors and weeks about, SHR maybe selling charters, have the charters talks, materialized about an extension? Has that got progressed any further than, a week, 2 weeks ago?
No, I think we're in a little bit of a holding pattern. And, I think the industry's trying to decide what the conversation really is. And I'm not sure the industry itself even knows what the conversation really is. You got the 4 different stakeholders with the tracks, and of course NASCAR, the teams, and the OEMs. And we're all kind of fighting for a little piece of the pie. you got this conversation, and we're in such a fortunate place to where we have the media rights deal extended for the next 7 years, which, is terrific for the sport and for the health of it. But ultimately, the conversation is we can't take for granted that that will be available in 2032 and beyond. We've got to get the sport where it's growing. We have to collectively, and it's not one stakeholder, it's all the stakeholders, improve our behaviors if we're going to grow the sport. And that's, again, that's not pointing finger at one person, it's really all the stakeholders. And the charter agreement is the best lever to do that. And so as an industry, we have to decide, whether it's consciously or not consciously, whether we're going to make the most of that moment, or whether we're gonna, all squabble over the piece of the pie. And I think, as time goes by, that conversation is becoming perhaps more highlighted. From a fan perspective, I'm always careful to have these conversations in the media because there's no reason to rile up our fans. We're going to run the Daytona 500. The sport's going to be here for at least the next 7 years. And so, there's, doom and gloom that gets put out on the Reddits and the so forth, and that's absurd. But on the flip side, this is a really key moment for NASCAR and for the sport to install the incentives that model the behaviors that we're going to need to be a successful industry for decades to come. And all of the people, it's not just me and it's not just one, but we have to decide whether we're going to seize that opportunity or not, or whether we're going to get caught squabbling over pieces of the pie. So it's a really important moment. And that's not to say there won't be more opportunities to do so, but this is the best opportunity as I see today, and we'll all find out together how it turns out.
This is Parker Chase. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and check out some of our other videos over here on the right, and be sure to visit frontstretch.com for more racing content.